Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome back to a brand new camp build. So we're up in the northern Savage Divide today, working on a raider outpost. So it turned out. It wasn't quite the original plan, but this is very much, as you will very much soon see, a build what you can where you can type of a build, which is often the case when you're working with existing locations in Fallout 76. So if you look at the top area of the footage we're looking at now, you can see the sort of bridge that's buried inside the rest of the camp, and that was the original starting point. And ultimately, the original idea was to build on the top of that, inspired by a couple of builds I saw over on Reddit that I'll link the YouTube videos for down in the description. And yeah, needless to say, the staircase to get up there ended up being the main feature of the build. But if you're wondering where we are right here. Pretty much due south of Sunnytop Station. That's the Atlas Observatory. Monongah Power Plant over there. Monongah itself. There's Sunnytop again. So, very north-central Savage Divide. We've got a couple of foundations in place already because there's a lot of fiddling around to get this started off with. So, you need to get the inner foundation there lined up parallel with the structure that's already there, the frame or whatever we want to call it. And then get the height right so that your top floor level is just above the level of the horizontal part of the structure. As unfortunately we can't clip through. And from there we're going to build outward and across the little gorge here between the two cliffs. So, yeah, that's the lowest level in place. Apologise for the pace a little bit on this one, but it's quite a long and involved build, so we're going to have to keep things moving along, so we're not here literally all day. As I say, the original idea here was just to have a way to get up to the top, but it ended up being the main feature of the build. As sort of these things often do when you sort of start adding bits onto them. So, almost up to the top here. This last staircase snapped in. There we go. And we run into a slight hiccup. We're not quite high enough there. See, the top of this is not actually level either, which is slightly inconvenient. But we can't snap through it, so through the power of editing, we'll move everything up a little bit and redo it. Back up to the top again. We'll try again. You can see we've got a bit of floating there, and a little bit more clearance on the left and the right. As I say, not quite level. But once we drop these floors in, you'll be able to see that it actually sits just snugly above the level of the cross beams here. It's also worth noting those radar poles sticking out on the left. For the most part, very much get in the way of building anything. You can't clip things through them very easily. So you have to work around that to a certain degree, but we'll come back and have a look at that in more detail towards the latter portion of the build. Finish getting this floor in, and then we'll head back down and finish off the staircase. So we're heading around the other side and just putting in basically a matching design, more or less, to the other side. There we go. So that we've got a nice even build. Everything's all connected. We haven't got anything looking too much like it's floating. So the staircase goes in. There we go. And let's a quick overlook at the basic structure. That's what we're building out from. So let's make this place a little bit more solid. So we'll start off with a couple of structures at the bottom here, basically gated entrances, kind of, with doors. But, as we're rapidly seeing, the game is restricting where we can place things quite a lot, partly because it's just picky like that, and partly because I'm trying to clip them through the rock faces on occasion, which we'll get to in a moment. But, as I say, it's very much a case of snapping in whatever you can, where you can, and working with it, which, in the case of a raider build, actually works quite well, but tidiness is not key on this particular build. So, we'll get those closed up a little bit. There we go. As you see, I can't actually get a wall to close this gap up where the stairs are, which was kind of annoying, to be honest, at first. But I decided to go with whatever works approach. So we've got a couple of floating walls at the top there. Come back to them in just a moment, you'll see that it does kind of work out quite well at the end. This side, however, is even worse because we've got a more narrow gap to work with, and the angle on the cliff face there is preventing a lot of placement. We'll snap in what we can again. If I'd used half floors on the top there, I could possibly have suspended the walls from those in the right places in hindsight, but I kind of like the odd weird angles. Works out in the end, as we'll see. So, on the other side, I was able to snap a door in on this level and then change it out to a wall. So I ended up changing, but nonetheless, it did work. This side, however, just didn't want to cooperate, so have a quick look at what we've got there. We'll come back to finishing that off in a bit. For now, I'm going to go under the stairs and then close them a little bit more, make them look a little bit more supported. Some walls in here. Should also say, oops, excuse the gunfire, but I will be coming back in the decoration phase and switching out a few of these wooden walls for different textures, primarily the warehouse pieces, just to mix it up a little bit, but for getting the basic structure in, just using wood for the moment. You'll see what I mean during the tour in a little bit. I'm sure you guys have seen this particular technique about 1,000,000 times by now, but we're using the extra floor on the edge there just to snap the support pillars in on the corners. Not quite as picky about the corner placement versus the mid placement as some people are, but in this case it does make things line up a little neater, so it does work rather well. Those snapped in. It's a little short, there we go. Nice and easy. There's going to be a lot of pillars on this particular build because it's going to be very spindly, but it works. You'll see what I mean in a bit. So, back to the main structure. Put a couple of walls in, and we'll start fencing the edges off. We clearly can't trust our raiders not to fall off. Fortunately, the pillars we've put in are getting in the way a little bit there, so we'll whip those out and then stick the railings on. We'll be able to snap them back once the railings are in place. One on the front there. There we go. Build persuasion required. Unfortunately, these half-size pieces are a bit more frustrating to get in, so extra floor pieces required, which ended up being quite a good thing, because we could put some turrets on here once I persuaded them to go under the staircases, which was none too easy in and of itself. There we go. Looking a little more complete down there. So, heading up one level, we're going to put some defences on this level and mix up the railing look a little bit, so guard posts instead of regular railings here. And these are reasonably forgiving about where they'll position. They've got reasonably soft edges, which is kind of helpful. Another one in on the back side here. And drop the railings in on the side facing the cliff here. There we go. And over to the other side, basically the same principle, working with getting stuff in wherever we can. See the shape's a little more bizarre. Move that one over as the cliff edge will do the job there for us. Fortunately, it's getting in the way there a little bit. And onto a couple more guard posts. I messed around with this one for a little while. I ended up settling on putting it on a bit of an angle so it faces up the train tracks there. That's the primary approach to the location. There's actually one slight flaw with the turret placement in the final version of this, that I point everything towards what I consider to be the front of the build, and any enemies that come this way will likely come from the back, so something to bear in mind if you do want to build in this location. So with the top level there, or almost top level of the staircase, I've put a few railings in, much as we've just done, but I'm going to change them up in a little bit, so we'll skip over that as it's exactly the same and going to change. A couple more posts snapped in. Same old technique. One good thing about doing this on the corners is if you've got them part way along the edge, which is where they usually want to snap, these posts, you'll find that you can't snap the railings on, but when you actually move them onto the corners, the railings go in just fine, so worth noting. This one's not on the corners, but unfortunately the floor won't snap to the end there, as it tries to clip through the existing structure and it won't allow it to do that. But they line up just fine, as we see, so all good. You can also see from that little shot, the back edge of this place is looking a little on the flat side, a little dull, so we'll break up that flat back wall a little bit, put a bit of texture here. Get a bit more interesting. So we're more or less going to follow the theme of the front edge, but we're going to mix it up a bit. So, central piece, a couple of pieces running off to the side, and then we'll have a little structure on the end. Okay, for now, we've got some railings in. Don't want one there. And a guard post in the middle. Again, the miniature railings are not playing ball. I have absolutely no idea why, but uncooperative on this occasion. Drop that guard post in. See it's clipping through at the edges there just fine, which is really nice to see since it's nice and smoothly up with the other railings, which is all good. And here we're going to put a little more traditional type of structure, kind of. It works quite well. So obviously can't snap the roof straight on, so half-size roof, down to an angled wall piece, and that will allow us to get the roof on. Just like that. The idea here is sort of a lookout come sort of place to stand and shoot down from. So you don't want too large a gap, so make it as difficult as possible for anybody attacking to throw grenades in there or to shoot anybody hiding up here. But you do want to be able to see out, so this does the job quite well. I thought we'll mix up the textures a little bit and use the grated floor there rather than this plain wooden one as well. So that will allow you to be shot from beneath, but it looks cooler. Now, get that snapped in. Now we just need a couple of posts because the corner of that roof just looks a little too unsupported. So once again, not going to snap on the corner. Not sure why I tried to do anything else really. Clearly it won't let me snap the railing in either. So grab our handy floor piece. Move it over. Come on, there we go. Simple as that. Quite pleased I was able to just shove the railing out the way without actually having to store it and then do it all over again. That was handy, to say the least. Nice. Much more sturdy. So, just looking back at the top of the stairs here, that little wall that we snapped in before I decided I don't actually like, so there's a couple of little changes going to be made. We're going to put some railings in. There we go. And they'll snap over the edge of that wall at the back there, which is quite cool. It's strange the things that do work and things that don't, but it gives it a bit more of a walkway vibe, makes it seem a little more open, which is more in keeping with the rest of the build. But I want a little extra support on the corner here, so floor piece, pillar, and then we'll put the railings back in. Come on. There we go. Much more complete. And we'll repeat on this side. Quite pleased the roof didn't get in the way of that floor piece as well, though. Very handy. Yeah, support the roof. Couple of railings. There we go. So, heading around the back, we've seen quite enough pillar snapping now, so we'll speed this up a little bit and get a few supports in for these little areas we've added at the back. Nice and easy. Yeah, man. One slightly annoying thing is that the pillars won't quite meet the train there, and I can't snap them through either, so a little bit frustrating, but at a glance you can't really tell that the pillar's not long enough there, so I can live with it. Now, posts in there, and all done. Apart from the top section. So, as I say, coming back up to the top. Much the same principles as before, but the difficult part, as I say, is working with the spikes at the back there that start to get in the way a little bit. So, as with the rest of this build, it's a case of trial and error, snap stuff wherever it will fit, and then tweak it to make it work. So I wanted a couple of more solid looking structures up here, sort of a living space I suppose. Come on, get in there. There we go. A few walls on here, and again I'll be mixing up the textures during the decoration phase, but snapping in the wooden pieces just for simplicity for the moment. So, take a quick look back at it, which I did quite a lot of times during this build. It's a little too small and stubby and doesn't quite look right, so I'll expand this out a little bit. You can see we're having a little problem snapping with the tent pieces, I suppose, there. So, expand this out a little bit. It looks much, much more complete. A few railings in. To say, they're going to have to be a little careful here, because I can only snap the railings in a few places, so I'd imagine a few raiders got shoved off there at some point, given their sense of humour these people tend to have. And as you may have noticed on the map earlier, I did fall to my death on several occasions, so be aware of that when you're working up here. It is quite far enough to kill your character. So, get a couple of roofs on. Supporting these is going to be a bit of a nightmare, but we'll manage. I did try some walls, but they won't snap in. I don't like the way they look either. So, back to the railings. Going to expand this out a little bit. Yeah, man. Yep. Good thing about it is, so long as one part of the roof's supported, then the whole thing will go in for the most part without too much of a problem, which makes getting a bit more creative with it a lot easier. Fortunately, that little crossbeam on the post there does not make life any easier. So, nice flat roof will go underneath it though, so problem solved. Check where that is, and we'll replicate it on the other side, so it looks a little tidier. So, close up the gap between the roof and the walls. Nice and easy. Come on. Yep. And the last one over the door. I decide which piece I need. There we go. So, for the sports, needed to, as I say, chop and change and just try and figure out what works. So here we're going to whip the floor pieces out a moment, stick the post in, and then put them back again, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. Apologies for the slightly wonky colours here. It had gone dark at this stage, and I thought you might like to see what I'm actually doing, so I brightened it up a little bit in post. With this being a Raider type build, I don't mind too much with the posts being a little bit in from the edges, so kind of obstruct you walking through a little bit, but doesn't look too bad. I mean, it keeps the kind of scrappy look to the thing. But there we basically have the structure. Some decoration later, let's have a look around. Thought a couple of windmills would really fit in here and keep with the Raider scrappy vibe, certainly compared to some of the other locations that Bethesda have put in game as well. So you can see I've mixed up some of the wooden pieces with warehouse pieces. I've actually got one snapped on backwards there on the left, which I decided to leave because it looks more interesting. A couple of fences just to tidy up the gap a little bit there. Although the tent's already in place, but a few bits and pieces of decoration just to make life a bit more interesting. Remember to put a toilet in this time. Conveniently putting a Raider style toilet in a Raider style build. Billboard there to close up the edge of the build. Actually, most of the build area is behind this thing because I placed my camp unit on top of that train, but it works, so that's all good. Thought I'd make this into a little bit more of a seating area as well, assuming Raiders are not particularly big on privacy. Wish we could put a door on that thing. Little campfire, a few bits and pieces to sit on. A little basketball court, because why not? I imagine to probably throw heads through the hoop rather than anything else, but that's Raiders for you. Unfortunately, building on a slope, putting those fire barrels in is kind of annoying. End up floating. Wish we could stick them in, but it is what it is. Into the lower section here, we have squeezed in a few player vending units. That's the thing I was looking for. Vending machines. Still got a floating wall up the top there, but fine. Big candles to illuminate it. I did actually record a nighttime tour for this, but the video's getting on a bit, and you get the main effect in the daytime anyway, so. Heading up, we've got a few little bits and pieces dumped around for decoration, a few boxes, a few turrets to cover the entrance, a couple of oil lamps. Pretty decent view from up here. Very, very windy location though. See a little bit of cover down there. To fire from if you need to. Billboard kind of limits your range a little bit here, but it does create a better look for the camp, so all important aesthetics. Built out a couple of the wooden floor pieces here as well with the grated ones just to mix up the textures a little bit. And I forgot to take a look on the lower section down there as well, but it's basically the same principles on the other side but a bit smaller. There's another player vending unit in there as well. mix up the tables and stuff there a little bit as well. Give the raiders somewhere to hang out. Didn't really need to have 2 sets of wires running to that missile turret, but it looks a lot more even that way, so it looks a little bit more deliberate. So that's why I did that. A few more bits and pieces around here for maintaining the generator and the like. We'll mosey on up to the next level. But rather than just repeating myself up here, I thought I'd squeeze the power armor station in. That way, basically, the raider leader, you imagine there's a set of raider power armor on there. Just come hurtling down the stairs, jump into his power armor, and basically do a superhero landing if the place is being attacked. That'll be suitably intimidating for anybody coming down the railway tracks there. Get through the door and take a look at this area. Can't run straight onto the spike there. Not a lot of decoration up here, as I was running very, very close to the build budget, but it's a raider place, so how much do you really need? A few mattresses on the floor. Mostly for space, but also because raiders. And the rest of our workbenches are up here as well. Squeezed in at the end here. Put more down the other side as well. So, not the safest on the back edge there, but it is a raider encampment. Which it kind of had to be with the spikes already in place, but there we go. Random Nuka-Cola machine. Decided to use a few stash boxes just to block up these holes here because I couldn't snap any railings on. We'll head out onto the cliff top where we've got a little cooking station. Nice little view of the back from up here. Not to fall off the cliff, that's how I killed myself several times. Take a little swing back round. A few more grated floors. Don't look down. It mixes up the textures a little bit, keeps life interesting. That clipping does make me sad on the door there. Can you do though? I like the table on top of the concrete-filled tyre as well. It kind of matches up to the height of the stools a little better. Though I think the player may actually end up being a little too short with that, but perfect wasn't really the name of the game with this build. There we go. So, I do hope you found that interesting. If you enjoyed the video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing if you haven't already. As always, social media links down in the description if you want to catch up with me on Instagram, Twitter or Facebook. And if you're really enjoying the content and would like to support the channel a little more directly, please do consider becoming a channel member via the blue join button below. The support is very, very much appreciated. For now, I'll say thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.